Okay, so I am back for the second part of my thoughts on The Ladies Who Punch by Raheem Satuda, the book about the view. Now, I thought it was going to be a little bit more. Oh my God, I forgot to tell you guys. Rosie O'Donnell is talked a lot, a hutchkabaloshkabashka, a huge bunch about in the book. Like I said in the first part, she's in throughout the book, even from like the beginning, which she has nothing to do with. Also, Donald Trump is in the book a whole lot, and I think this book, I guess he was writing it around the time that he became president. He was still writing. Also, I think that's what was like probably a part of the a part of getting people to get the book because Donald Trump was being talked about. But as a 2020, oh my gosh, let me calm down. As a 2023 viewer of everything, lived through the Trump era, the Trump presidency, it's annoying to read in the book. Like he's like the sixth housewife, the sixth co-host on The View. Like he is talked about so much. Him and Rosie are talked about so much, and it's not even like with them together and their little spat. It's just like, oh my gosh, it's annoying. So at this point, Meredith is gone. Star has gone. This is like Rosie's reign. Comment about hosting. Oh, Rosie. Rosie made a comment after I think when she had like a Broadway play, and like behind the scenes, she says somebody had asked her, "What do you think you'll be doing in 10 years?" And she said, or when you're older, she said, probably being a host on the fucking View. She said it like that. I'm not exaggerating. So I'm like, okay, here you go. You're kind of like dogging it at the time, but now it's like a job that you're going to take because you want to get back into working. Rosie was like, I did not know this about Rosie, but she was definitely portrayed in the book. I don't know if this is true because it's a little bit before my time, baby. Um, Rosie was portrayed as like the second coming of Michael Jackson. Like she couldn't walk down the street. She would garner too much attention if she went places. It was some place she said she went. But anyways, her I guess her talk show was very successful. And it after she left it, I guess people really wanted Rosie. I didn't know she was that big. So this was like a big deal for her to come into the View and be the moderator. This would be like the second slash first person of a celebrity status to come, already established stature with their celebrity stature, to come and moderate, host, whatever the View. So Barbara Walters needed a moderator. By the way, Barbara wanted to moderate in the beginning, but she was advised by like her lawyers or her manager or something, don't do it. It's gonna immediately discredit your reputation or ruin your reputation or something like that. So she didn't, and I think everybody knows was like her biggest regret, not being an official moderator of The View. But it's like, could she really had done it after a certain point? 10 years in. Oh, this is also 10 years in. Um, everybody, the staff and producers found out that Rosie was going to be a moderator, and indirectly through a news article that was leaked. That was she was they were all going to the Emmys, and she was to be announced as the new moderator, host, whatever, of The View at the Emmy Awards. Um, so yeah, I'm gonna see what the part. Rosie takes one. Oh, Rosie has a takeover spirit. Also, I didn't know Rosie was an Aries, and I'm just gonna name a few Aries. Like the main Aries women that we know are singers: Shaka Khan, Aretha, Billie Holiday. These strong personalities. Mariah. I think Rihanna is too. Like these Lady Gaga. These strong personalities. These strong headed women. And Rosie is one of them, and she's the takeover spirit now. I think like some days or weeks before she was supposed to officially start, she had popped in and was talking and popped in one of the morning meetings. It's Elizabeth Joy, what's her name? And Barbara in their morning meetings. And they were talking about, I think, like abortion or something. And Rosie and Elizabeth got into a heated argument, a hot, like Coco Chanel heated argument, right? And so it started off like this riff between them. And so there's like that clip that like went viral when he was when Rami was, I don't think it was went viral. It just was leaked because it had like I love that, the backstage and then the actual tape on stage was like pieced together with this like 20-minute thing of Barbara or Elizabeth feeling like she was reprimanded by Barbara for not listening and sticking to her own point of view. But the thing is with Elizabeth, and then this bleeds into like stuff I think we kind of seen about Meghan McCain, because Bill Getty, the producer, because he was a Republican and he really vouched for the this Republican seat, there were times where they say in the book, I think Rosie specifically says that she was fed for like, periods of time, fed talking points about the Republican Party, the quote unquote Republican view. She was fed and then she would say it on air. And so when people like talk about, Elizabeth was like the best conservative seat host, I'm just like, well, was she really? Because this book kind of like changes a lot. I mean, this book kind of exposes the fakery, the lies. It really exposes that. And so I'm just like, was she really the best? Okay, whatever. And so, Meghan McCain also had that people peeping in and saying, "Oh, the main issue is you have these thoughts, but you can't defend them." And so now you're just like repeating the same shit over, and it's not making sense because you're not actually defending any. You're not defending your thoughts because they're not your thoughts. But then again, oh, I'm just realizing Bill Getty wasn't there for Megan. So hey, but still, they said that about Megan as well as Elizabeth. But anyways, back to this story. So like we see, I don't think Elizabeth. I think Elizabeth felt gang. She says she felt ganged up on in the morning meeting with Rosie and Joy and Barbara. But it was another host there that day too. a co-host. I mean, a guest host. Um, but I'm like, I don't think Barbara was really reprimanding her. I think she was just like saying, maybe Barbara was being a little unfair, but I just feel like Barbara was just like, you're not listening to what I'm saying, and you're jumping ahead because you felt gang up on in the meeting. This is her reaction. And she was like, I'm about to quit during commercial break. Like, this is like, I was not expecting what I was. If you go watch the video, it's really like quick. And it's like, oh, is she going to quit? Oh, she's not going to quit. Okay, we have 15 seconds to run up the stairs and get back on stage. And it was like, whoa. Rosie and Elizabeth were buddies. And then that flipped. Rosie is also a menace. Rosie wanted to come in and again change things, the takeover spirit, change the set, change the way, change different segments, change the talking points, change about what they talked about. Rosie really came in and wanted to quote unquote make like the view better and make everybody better. But it's just like, are they the problem or are you the problem? Yes, ratings did go up significantly for the year. She has signed a year at this point. She was like, okay, I'll do it for a year. So she was just a menace towards the producers, towards the director. They got into like this explosive. Um, she like walked in one day, didn't say hi, didn't say anything, and she was like, "You changed the set, or you changed the design, or something." She's like, "Something changed," and she just questioned him, like interrogated him, and walked out. And then he was like, I never want to speak to her again. I never want to see her again. Please make sure of that. I think he talked to the stage managers, like, make sure we never are in the same room ever again. Rosie was really nasty to the producers, the the producers, the people. I was about to say help. I don't know why I was about to say help, but she was just like really nasty. And from what Wendy has talked about Rosie, her sources saying, Rosie isn't like the nicest person to work with, isn't the best person to work with. And Rosie O'Donnell, might be very talented and humorous and funny and such, but she also has problems. Like her own daughter, like her daughter, like ran away. Her daughter ran away. Just a mess. Just a mess. Bill Getty. Bill Getty had an interesting, like everything he said was so interesting. When in terms of criticism against him, Bill would act like the rumor. Okay, let's say like Raheem asked him about a rumor. Bill would act like in his response, he would act like the rumor wasn't true. But then at the tail end, he'll confirm that the rumor was true without saying anything, any specific words. I mean, any like answering words, indirectly answering that the rumor is true. He was also very much on Barbara Walters' side, which, to be expected. They worked together for so long. It's giving like Patti LaBelle. If you know anything about Patti LaBelle and Bud Ellison um, work relationship. They worked, together behind the scenes, and then they became actual work partners. Rosie, I feel like lost us. I feel like was a bad move. I'm not gonna say lost us. Rosie, I feel like it was a bad move for Rosie to say that she kind of had a crush on Elizabeth, but like a work crush, like a crush in the way I'm gonna help you work better, think better. It's just like it was. it's so weird. Like, why would you say that to the straight woman who, eventually they get into it? Um, was Rosie and Elizabeth, I think they slightly asked about this, but I'm thinking about it. If you watch, it's different reading stuff and then watching it. So if you watch that explosive, where the explosive 10-minute segment, is this PBS? That 10-minute segment with Rosie and Elizabeth, where they're going back and forth at it. Rosie kind of looks, actually, Rosie looks really beautiful in that segment, but she also, like, it was giving slightly sexual energy, and Elizabeth maybe not knowing how to take it, so she kind of plays this innocent role. But Rosie was just like, we were best friends. I introduced you to Broadway. I took you to your first Broadway show. It's like, who fucking cares? Um, I, I just found that so weird. But her saying she had a crush on her was probably not the best move. It was very honest, I guess, but it probably wasn't the best move to it. My thing about Rosie, and both times Rosie came back, both both Rosie's co-host um reign on the show, she always talked about wanting to make the show better and having this idea for the show. But it's like, why didn't she try to usher in producers? I know she didn't get along with the producers. Um, it was hell. It's kind of funny. I think the hell that she put on at the View for her first year, she kind of got it back with Whoopi her second time coming back. Oh wow, that's a revelation. That's a revelation. So it comes up for, oh, I just want to know why Rosie didn't try to bring in producers that she thought that worked well. It just seemed like she wanted to change everybody, and I feel like a part of change maybe is ushering new talent. And instead of complaining about it and pitching a fit about it, how about say, let's try this producer, let's try that producer. Even though I believe it was difficult because Barbara and Bill were, you know, at the helm of, employment there in a sense. Why not try to usher in some new stuff? So the contracts negotiations come up. She's like, yes, I want to go for my second year. Um, and they were like, okay, we're gonna keep going. So there's this conversation about with Rosie and Elizabeth about, I think they had just about calling, I think, Americans terrorists. And I believe Elizabeth made some really good points when she was just like, you're calling, which basically true. If you're going invading in another country and killing their civilians, you're a terrorist. It's a terroristic activity, no matter what you think you're trying to accomplish. No matter what your goal is to accomplish going into there. If you're killing civilians, you don't think they see us as terrorists, and that was Elizabeth's point because Rosie was gung ho on asking her, "Do you think I would call Americans terrorists? Do you think I think we're terrorists?" And she's like, "No. Do you think I would think you?" It's just like this, like back and forth mind fucks with each other, and so At the end of that conversation, Rosie says something to the nature of, "Well, maybe we should look at what other countries say about us because we can't always trust the networks here in America on what they're giving us about other countries and what we're actually doing." Red flag. Immediate red flag to the ABC networks. Negotiations were off the table. They found a way. They said something. I forgot what they actually said about her not coming back, or the reason why they wouldn't bring her back. But it wasn't specific to that. She said she to this day she doesn't know why they stopped negotiations. So she was fired in that sense. Rosie was fired the first time, and she quit the second time. Rosie was fired because she, the first time, she, what is the word? Not exposed, but she gave thoughts that the network she was working on is not a credible source. It's just like putting your foot in your mouth. The network she was working on is not a credible news source. So they fired her. They fired her, and then they brought on Sure Shepherd, and then I'm trying to think. Oh, I think they fired Elizabeth because they were going in a different direction. Um, no. I forgot why they fired Elizabeth. Maybe she's becoming boring. I don't know. Something they fired Elizabeth, and she ended up getting this job at Fox and Friends or Fox News because nobody wanted to hire her, basically off the soul of in the relationship with Barbara Walters. It was a favor. That's what the book said. What a mess, right? What a mess. Barbara really lies. Barbara Walters lies. She lies about like why they leave and stuff. So they're yet again without a co-host. And so they oh no. Did I say they Whoopi and Sherry came on at the same time? Um Congratulations to Sherry because I feel like yeah, Sherry has been working in the industry for a long time. Her and Niecy Nash, they're friends. Niecy Nash, Kim Whitley, so endearing and cute to see those group of women. Like when certain group of women, or like a certain group grows up in the industry and grows and becomes, Sherry has no talk show. I don't know who's watching it. Niecy Nash is in everything. Kim Whitley, I don't know what she's doing now, but still shout out to them. Whoopi return. Where is it returned? Whoopi is deemed the moderator. It at this point she was an EGOT, and she did bring some status. But as we know, Whoopi and in her first like day on the show, she had caused some controversy. I forget what it was, but it's like Whoopi still causes really a big deal of controversy, even like recently. Um, and it's fascinating that how I think we as a public think of Whoopi as some aspects of her is very relatable. But Whoopi mentally and her thoughts about her view on stuff is not 100% always relatable. And I think that's what kind of shocks us. It still is a little shock to me because, she's been in our lives. Sister Act is like my favorite movie. Sister Act, Kachina, Ghost. Everybody loves Whoopi, The Color Purple. Everybody loves Whoopi, but Whoopi is literally an actress, and she's that. I think that's what going back to like even like Ariana DeBose. They're bringing up these clips of her in West Side Story, and it's just like, okay, her in that is completely different than her live and in color, and seeing like her voice crack and she's turning on her breath, and it's just like crazy. So it's just like these women are really actresses. So Whoopi, she's the moderator now. Like I said, Sherry is hired, and she gets like controversy for her quote unquote dumb opinions and dumb sayings about the earth being flat. And she's just like blaming it on her Jehovah Witnesses thing. And we know Whoopi and Sherry has like this cute relationship where Whoopi like went and bought her clothes and took her on her wings. And Whoopi, oh, okay, so then Jenny McCarthy is hired. That Jenny McCarthy chapter is insane. At this point, Elizabeth is out. Jenny McCarthy is hired. Jenny McCarthy had been there before promoting a book on how she quote unquote like saved or helped her child through his autism, I believe. And so I guess it had maybe unconsciously struck a nerve in Barbara, and she like yelled at Jenny saying, "How can you do this?" And the unconscious nerve that was struck, I think everybody is saying is similar, is correlation, sorry, with her sister who had, I think, what they thought was like autism or some kind of mental disability. Um, her sister Jackie, I believe her sister's name is. So she was yelling at Jenny, and then Jenny gets hired on the show many years later. Barbara doesn't remember her. Barbara has like memory issues about who Katy Perry was or the Kardashians or somebody famous they were talking about. Um, and I think she was like, they were here last week, and so a couple of the girls, she didn't say specifically who, but she was like, she would get either the kick under the table or the hand on the knee when she would try to like correct Barbara or tell Barbara information that Barbara was losing it. I feel like Barbara's mental health is very shielded on the show, on in the book. Nobody's really like Jenny's the only one that really talked about like what was going on with Barbara, what the tea on was with Barbara, and it's fascinating how that has been shielded from the public. It's funny. Um, Barbara announces she's leaving the show, and Jenny just took it as there's this new chick girl on the block, and she's taking it out on me. She would be like, Barbara would tell her, Barbara would tell her what to wear, and I think because Barbara's old and she's like quote unquote a legend in the game, and people respect her and revere her and want to do things and work with her. I think because of that, they wouldn't pounce back on her. Except for Rosie. Rosie, I think during Rosie and Trump were going back and forth. Rosie like yelled at her, and they all felt it was inappropriate, but they didn't really do anything about it. So there's that on that. It's just like it's so weird. It was like it's a weird culture that we're reading about. But Barbara would tell her like to change her clothes like 40 times a day, not 40 times a day, something like that, like 40 times a month. She'd be like, "Oh, what are you wearing?" To Jenny McCarthy. She's like, "Oh, what are you wearing?" And Jenny would come and show her. "Oh no, go change. That's a little too, sexy for TV or whatever." And then Jenny would be like, then she would go and tell me what I took off. She'll go tell her stylist to go find, and she would wear it. And I would just be like, wait, what? What? So Barbara gave Jenny hell. She talked about it was just like shit I would not do. Maybe, I guess so you just got to be there to experience it because she was just like there was like a pad or something or a tampon in the toilet or something. And some toilet, some random ass toilet Barbara was in or using or saw, and she came and told Jenny about it. Like Jenny was the assistant to the custodians, and like go clean it up. And Jenny's like, "What do you mean go clean it up?" And she's like, "Go clean it up, Jenny. Go get that tampon out of there." Just absolutely crazy stories that and antics that Barbara would request of her. And it's like, Jenny, why don't you go tell somebody to go clean it up? Like, why would you? See, it's just like stuff doesn't make sense. Like, why are you putting up with this shit? So, this is Barbara's last season. She announces that season. I remember that. I do remember like it being weird. And Barbara took her time. She's like, "This is my last season. Don't worry, I'm not going yet. Okay." Not like these other hoes. They get 2 months in advance. I'm giving y'all a year. So this is her last season. Barbara does not want to leave. She announces she's leaving. Barbara wants to um, moderate her dream job. I've heard the show that she created. And in Whoopi's contract, it says that there is a stipulation or whatever that says Whoopi is the moderator and nobody else is going to moderate as long as Whoopi is present. And that's that on that. So Barbara leaves. Oh. Her last day, right? Barbara's last day. They're like backstage. I forget what somebody said to her. Or like, how do you feel about the view? Or where do you think it's gonna go? Or something like that. She's like, she said very loudly, it's gonna be canceled as soon as I leave. Child. Imagine that. So Jenny is gone. I mean, Jenny, Joy, and Sherry get fired. The View's going in a completely new direction. They end up hiring completely new producers. I think a part of this whole like new life into The View was that Barbara sold her stake or her rights, I think back to ABC or somewhere. She sold her rights or her rights. I think there's another word I'm trying to look for, but I think she just sold her rights to the show. Money she didn't need, somebody said. So she had no control of the show. I'm trying to remember who, but I don't know who. They brought in a bunch of news producers trying to make the show more political. When Jenny McCarthy was there, she was like, they wanted to make the show more pop. Oh, that was another reason. They wanted to make the show pop cultural, more pop cultural. Yeah, that was the weird part. Yeah, and I did like Jenny McCarthy there. I think because of that reason, like I just never found her interesting. I never found her like fascinating enough to be a co-host. She was boring to me. Ugh. Anyways, I'm almost at the end because after that, after they fired everybody, fired Joy. Joy said they came in and she knew that they made a mistake by the tone of their firing her, but she was happy to leave, as we all know. Jenny McCarthy was fired. Sherry was fired. and Barbara Walters was retired. A bunch of ABC News producers come in. They don't know what the hell they're doing. Whoopi is irritated. She's holding on to the ratings by a thread. They bring in Nicole Wallace and Rosie Perez and Rosie O'Donnell. There was one producer that was like, "We have to get Rosie back on this show." Rosie O'Donnell was there for 5 months. I never understood why Rosie Perez was there. It didn't make sense. But actually thinking about it, it makes sense. Thinking about them bringing in big names, familiar people, that part makes sense now. But watching it, I was just like, who the hell? What the hell? Rosie Perez. I loved Nicole Wallace. Nicole Wallace was a favorite. I don't know why she left. She was funny. She tried to be engaging in the pop culture. She was a news analyst or journalist or something like that. She tried, and I think that's what was so endearing to her about me. I mean, about me to her. And she had like this fun relationship with Whoopi. I really love Nicole Wallace, and I couldn't believe, I didn't realize she was only there for a year. I thought she was there for 2 years, but she was only there for a year, and this revolving door of co-hosts just coming in and out, and auditions and non-auditions, and oh my god, people are being banned. Star Jones banning people, and them coming back, and just a fucking mess. Just a mess. I remember this vividly. Just a mess. The small ass table with 20 girls at the seat looking like it's just a mess. Just a mess. Whoopi was losing her hair. Everybody was dying. It's just like, come on. Where am I? Rosie O'Donnell got back there, and I believe they made it seem like Rosie had a big hand in firing Bill Getty, who she did not like. She thought he was sexist. He was a Republican. They did not get along. Of course, Rosie was there to, of course, make the view better. She's on better meds, allegedly. And her takeover spirit came, and she was not the moderator, but she was a co-host, but she wanted to moderate ish. What a mess, you guys. What a mess. Like, Rosie O'Donnell has issues. Rosie and Whoopi just go at it every day. Tension on set. Rosie would walk off set during commercial, take a Xanax because of the way Whoopi would treat her. Rosie's not a victim. I'm not even claiming Rosie's a victim in her 5 months or her 1 year. Rosie's not a victim. Rosie definitely puts her foot in her mouth, and her takeover spirit gets her in trouble. Rosie had her own show. Did you guys watch that on OWN? That didn't do well, and I really remember all the changes. I remember it being like a big audience, and I think Mariah was like her first. Mariah Carey was her first guest, and Patti LaBelle was on. Just like really good names, and I thought it was a solid show, and it was probably not that much different from her show 20 years prior. 20? Oh, 12, 15 years prior to that. And then I remember it being stripped down because they could not get the ratings. She was in Oprah said, "Can you save us some money and go to Chicago where the studio is and film there?" But Rose was like, "But I live in New York." And I think I remember her saying that, like she would fly back and forth to New York and Chicago. Or maybe I'm thinking of Tinsley from Real Housewives of New York City. Okay, that's probably what I'm thinking about. But anyway, it's her flop show over at OWN. By the time you know it, you look around twice. Her show's canceled. Um, what else? She was going to be a co-host or moderator at the Talk. I was confused about that because it's like you couldn't even moderate. Okay, you got. I don't remember if this was before or after her own show, but you left your daily. It's just like I feel like it was magic that Rosie O'Donnell was not able to recreate that she wanted to recreate. It was giving Michael Jackson syndrome. I want to recreate this magic, but it keeps flopping. It's not recreating the way it's supposed to recreate the way I think it's supposed to recreate. And I think that's what Rosie's problem was. What do you guys think? Please let me know in the comments. What are your thoughts on Rosie at The View? Yes, she definitely brought in ratings, but like I said, she fired Bill Getty, she fired the whole staff. They brought in these ABC producers. They didn't know what they were doing. Her and Whoopi got into it all the time, so she ended up quitting 5 months in. She said, "Get me out of here" to her agent, and she never looked back. Rosie Perez was doing Broadway. See, another reason why I'm like, why was Rosie Perez on there? Rosie Perez was doing Broadway. So she had to leave and talked about, it was family and health, whatever. Bye, girl, fly girl. Nicole Wallace was there. She got fired, unfortunately. Like I said, I still love Nicole Wallace. Raven was there. Michelle Collins. And they hired Joy back. Yeah, I think that was the next one. Joy, Raven, and Michelle. Michelle, I think, didn't get along with Joy because Joy was the comedian and Michelle is also a comedian. So I'm going to wrap it up. So I think the main thing that I took from the view, this book, is I did not realize it's basically a reality show. It's portrayed as a reality show. You have to give your life, your personal, you also have to be up to date on politics, and you have to be likable to stay and have longevity. I don't think they're getting paid that much. Oh, crap. Oh, I think, Whoopi was talking about she couldn't afford to buy a home in Italy. Oh, Whoopi said she couldn't buy a home in Italy. Also, when Sunny Hostin talked about her getting her plastic surgery, she said she saved up for like 2 years, $30,000. I'm like, you're not getting $30,000 an episode? Like, what's going on here? And your husband's a really incredible doctor. You got these book deals. You're on a couple of movies, and you don't have $30,000. You have to save up $30,000. What kind of fees? Who are you paying besides the taxes? Taxes probably what, like 10,000? Okay, probably not 10,000. I don't know. Like taxes and you're not getting 30 an episode or 30 a week. It's just not making sense. How much is 30? Uh, how much is 30,000 in a week? 30,000 times, but let's do 4 weeks. Okay, if I could type. That's $120,000 a month. They're paying them nothing at the View. Was Rosie getting paid better than Whoopi? Oh, Sherry was like, I sent in negotiations for my contract, and they didn't even get back to me. No. I think they said they were going to get back to her. Like a raise. No raise. So yeah, those are my thoughts. I think the book it's revealing. And it's also showing like Barbara Walters having this one side of her that is a, you know, Lord, the word trailblazer, incredible woman, great journalist, yada yada yada. But also this like vicious, lying, old, yelling at Jenny McCarthy, being yelled at by Rosie. Like it's an interesting book. Definitely pick it up if you haven't. Um, the Star Jones stuff was really funny. Like I said, I feel like it wasn't a whole bunch of Star Jones talk in it as much as I thought it was gonna be. But yeah, shout out to The View. This is the Dare Show podcast. Thank you so much for listening. If you've stuck around 45 minutes later listening, I'm on Instagram at My Love Miney tonight. The Dare Show podcast on YouTube is the only place you can find me right now. We're finding new episodes. You can find old stuff on Spotify podcasts and Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. Thank you so much for listening. Have a great evening. Goodbye.